G'day, how you going? In this video I will be painting a Chaos Legionnaire from the Purge. This warband was a request left by a viewer of a previous video, so please if you have any requests feel free to leave in the comments and I will happily oblige to the best of my ability. But jumping straight in, I started with a grey primer and started filling in the black areas with Death Reaper from 2 thin coats, before lower glazing and recessed shading with Doom Death Black, with about a 1:1 mixed water to paint ratio. The black areas are actually shown to be a bit mixed among the artwork, so feel free to choose different areas than I did, but the scheme was predominantly shown to be relatively consistent with the torso and thighs being black at least. So the point of the glaze is really to get a bit of a mixed tone of black to help give that worn, dirty sort of effect to the armour. And to do this I applied it mostly to the lower parts of the armour but also on flat surfaces where I wanted to give a bit of depth and distinction given that the trim was the same colour too. So the effect is subtle, but it really does help break the clean black look that straight black would give, with Death Reaper being more a grey, and so shifts the tone to a more worn visual. And to add a bit more grime to the Purge, I then added some thin recessed lines of cuirass leather from 2 thin coats, not really necessary everywhere, but where the grime and mud would collect easier. And for the highlights on the black, you'll want to use a more dirty looking grey, and Storm Vermin Fur from Citadel is perfect for this. But keep it very thin, less watered down than usual for more control, and maybe only to the sharpest points. Another good thing about this paint is it also doubles as a bit of weathering or damage, like chipping, when applied to the trim. Now moving to the green areas, I used Gung Ho Green from 2 thin coats. Funnily enough, I actually found an old test model I did years ago of the Purge after I already started with the Gung Ho Green, and saw I had done a more cleaner looking green here, and I'll show that at the end, but the artwork depictions show both types of green, so choice is yours, but I'll touch on that more at the end. But for this green I then used Athonian Camo Shade and built up layers over the green for depth and grime, focusing more on lower recess areas where moisture would collect. This does take a few coats, so be patient, keep it thin and wait for each layer to dry completely before the next one. Back to cuirass leather again, using it in the same context and method as before with the black, but probably a bit more sparing I'd say, leaving it for really only the deepest areas, letting the Athonian Camo Shade be the main star of the green shading. I then briefly used Green Beret from 2 thin coats as an extreme edge highlight. I have plans to weather the green and so didn't want to pretty it up too much with an edge highlight, so limited application was really used here, saving it for really only the sharpest points. Mournfang Brown from Citadel was then applied to some recess areas of the green, not as a shade but as a foundation for where rust or mud would build up. So around some rivets, between the trim and also in smudge-like chunks on random areas of the trim and armour. Taking note where you do apply this colour though for when we return later. Cuirass leather really is the all-rounder for this one, I gotta say. Returning back to the areas we made smudge-like circles, apply it to the centre of the Mournfang Brown, giving it a sort of corrosive, rusted away look. I then used a little of the leftover Green Beret around these areas too, very fine lines on the outside of the Mournfang Brown to show razor-sharp chips where it had corroded away. Leaving the armour there for the moment, I moved to some of the metallics, and for this I only really applied silvers to this model. Again, the Purge are very diverse with their armour, with some showing a lot of bronze, but for mine I used Canoptek alloy because it already showed a bit of a weathered silver sort of look, before then washing with some Agrax Earthshade. After that, I began filling in the areas between the joints using Wizard Grey from Too Thin Coats, and then a very watered down rubber black from AK Interactive as a wash. For the accessory pouches, I used red leather from Vallejo. This paint's finish is extremely matte and almost looks dry, and I really like it for these sort of things, but I also dabbed a little into the silver areas too for a bit of a mix of texture. And dark umber from Pro Acryl complements it even further as a shade, glazing it over and building it up for a bit more definition before adding Citadel's Carrick Stone as an edge highlight. And deciding that I hadn't used it enough already, cuirass leather was then used for the cloth used to hold the pouches to the thigh and also around the waist. For the cloth on the front, I used AK Interactive Green Ochre. No idea why, actually. I bought this ages ago and never used it, so I gave it a go. And since it was out, used it for the bones on the helm too, before shading these areas with dark umber. Since it's here, I'll give it my 2 cents. The application was painful, but its potential did begin to show once the colour built. It gives a greenish colour to the bone, which was nice. And when the dark umber was dry, I lightly highlighted the bone and cloth with temple stone from Too Thin Coats. Alright, for the bolter I had a bugger of a time with recording and missed a lot of it, so I do apologise, but the rundown was I used Canoptek alloy again for the silver areas for the weathered look, cuirass leather for the belt strap, shocking, I know, dark grey from AK Interacting for the casing, and dark umber for the wooden light gripping. But for the casing it did look a bit flat, so I glazed smoke black from AK over the larger areas, briefly jumping to Agrak's Earthshade for the silver while the black dried, before returning again to highlight with Wizard Grey from Too Thin Coats. Deciding to add a couple little scratches with the same colour for a weathering effect. And just for some little extra highlights to some of the more decorative areas of the green, I used a little ochre and camo for Citadel. And returning to the black armour one last time, I added a little Cabalite green in pools around the armour, and then added some Cyberite green for a little build-up. Both watered down 1-to-1 with water, optional if you don't like it, just a little different colour of weathering really to make the model a little bit more interesting. So in watered down streaks or build-up around rivets is probably the best effect for this. But again, add as you like or skip entirely, it's entirely up to you. I then gave the eyes a strong hit of Demon Red from Too Thin Coats before adding a small dot of white to the centre and then glazing over with Magma Droth Flame. And there we go, a member of the Purge warband. This one was fun, as weathering is never something I usually try my hand at, so it was great to get some practice in. Can't thank you enough if you're watching for the suggestion. Just quickly, as mentioned, here's the test model I found. See, this take of green really did appeal to me. Steered it away from Nurgle and gave it more of an independent warband feel from old. And to be honest, that's probably what makes me like it a little bit more over the modern take of the Purge. But in the end, I think it's an awesome colour scheme either way. And the idea of the warband is awesome. Having so little care for all things, it even means purging other Chaos Space Marines is on their to-do list. But thank you if you made it here. I can't tell you how much it means to me. Let me know your thoughts. Did you like the look of the test model, or did you prefer the rotted green take? Please leave a like or comment below if you want. Subscribe too if you feel like it, no pressure, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.